This week's theme is the importance of soul receptivity. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. In chapter 1st of Gospel of St. John states, "But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe in his name." This was a passage Paramahansa Yogananda often quoted to his disciples. Be in tune, he would tell them. Delusion can touch you if you will keep in tune. A few of you will fail, he said once, but it needn't be if you would stay in tune. Of a disciple who became highly advanced, even though she didn't meditate much, he said, she got there by attunement. The one who found meditation difficult, he said, I will meditate for you as long as you stay in tune. Truth is a state of consciousness, not a well-worded definition. It is in that consciousness above all that our lives are transformed. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita says in the 10th chapter, to those who are ever attached to me and who worship me and love, I impart discernment by means of which they attain me. Out of my love for them, I, the divine within them, set a light in them, the radiant lamp of wisdom, thereby dispelling the darkness of their ignorance. Om. 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 Happy Sunday, everyone. It's beautiful being together. So today's topic is attunement. Those who have met Swami in the body, or the ones who came later, how many times have we listened this story? Also, you can find them in his book, The Path, about the last period of his life. Swamiji always returned on this point. The moment he's found the autobiography of a yogi and the moment of his discipleship. His speeches were very, very simple. He could reach the essence of his life, and the essence of his life was discipleship. And the essence of discipleship and the attunement. Swamiji, for us, was a great example. So we can follow his footsteps in this path. And it takes quite a long time for me. I thought that at the very beginning, I've been told that this path is half service and half meditation. So for a long time I thought that those were the pillars, and it's actually it's true. But then in a speech years ago, Jyotish, the spiritual director of Ananda Worldwide, described this path as a triangle. So service and meditation as the basement, but the higher point is the attunement. So our path is made of attunement service and meditation. Swamiji said that what Master offered to us was, of course, all his teachings, all his writings and lectures, but the true gift of Master to us was the capacity to be in attunement with him. So Swamiji followed that path more than 60 years. I can't remember perfectly, but almost 60 years or more. And he always tried to ask in every single moment, Master, please guide me. How should I think? How should I act? How should I speak? Once Swamiji was having a walk with Jyotish and Devi in the garden of his house in California, and suddenly he stopped and he said, "Oh, that's what he meant, Master." And he, in that moment, he realized a quote of the Master that he read 50 years before. So his entire life was dedicated what Master was teaching to me. A minister once said to Swamiji, when Swamiji had to take a tough decision, that minister said, "Are you sure that is Master's will?" And Swamiji, a little surprised, gazed to him and he said, "I've never done anything without the approval by Master, without feeling that is Master's will." And closed the hands of his life. Swamiji said these powerful words, "I don't know where I end and Yogananda starts." It's a very big word. Maybe some of you are listening to this ceremony and is not a disciple, and he's questioning himself, why should I disappear and become a master or paramahansa? Why should I dissolve myself? I will disappear, I will die. It's a good question, can be frightening. But who is frightened? Who is dissolving? Is the part of us that is attached to this body, to this limited reality, the famous ego. So the ego doesn't want at all to die, to disappear, and to get lost. But in getting lost, in losing this little ego that is the mother of all our problems, we are slave. We are in slavery. Because of our limitations, our fears, we can't overcome them all if we do not act from a different state of consciousness. And in order to overcome the ego, we have to rise up above our consciousness. And the better way to do that, because nowadays we cannot realize, we cannot understand, we cannot see that infinite consciousness that we want to become. We would like to expand our little self into an higher consciousness, but we won't get lost. We just expand into the infinite. And so in order to do that, again, we have to attune ourselves with someone who have already achieved this state. That's why Master said, gave a great emphasis to the attunement, but not to everyone. He gave a great speech before thousands of people. He was explaining and sharing the teachings, but then Swamiji said that in the ashram to his close disciples, he didn't explain the teachings, but instead, as in the reading, he was telling over and over again, be in perfect attunement. And when it's difficult, be more, get more in tune. The greatest thing that Master has given to us, to his disciples, is attunement. So it's not an attunement with his personality, but an attunement with his expanded consciousness. Swami said once, Yogananda has not a personality in which I could merge. Yogananda said, I killed myself many, many years ago. Now in this body only gods dwell and abide. So we should attune with his consciousness. In the reading, there is a quote from the Bible. And Swamiji said that the power that Christ had, also Master had. But as many had received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name. I would like to share with you 3 different ways today, a way that I use in order to get to be attuned. There are many, many different ways. Also, the technique that Arudra and I did at the very beginning of the ceremony, when we meditate for a short moment. It's a technique that Master himself gave to us. So Master gave many different techniques. That one is from his book, The Realization of Self. So attune yourself with the face and the eyes of the Masters and try to perceive his presence behind. Then we can practice japa, we can chant, we can ask Master, what should I do? So there are many, but now I will share 3. I was touched by this Master's quote that is very well known. And I realized the meaning of that quote. He said, to those who think me near, I'll be near. You probably know it. We all know it. To those who think me near, I'll be near. What does it mean? He used the verb think. He didn't use a different word like perceive, feel, see, or before, or materializing. He said think. What does it mean to think? The action of thinking is an act of willing, is active, is not something passive. It's not that suddenly Master appears. He said, think of me. So activate your willingness, your conscious will, in order to imagine, think of me. And I'm with you, always. What means always? Can you think that Master is beside me, present, close to me, while we are serving, while we are having our breakfast, while we are driving? We can do that. But you can also think that is very powerful, that Master is within me. His consciousness is with me. Few months ago, we were giving a class about living the presence of God, and Swami Uma shared two stories that I knew well, but I was touched once again. And again, I thought about this quote: to those who feel me near, I be near. So he shared the story of Saint Teresa of Avila when she, and it's amazing because she's this great saint we all know. So she arrived in the cloister, the monastery, at the moment of during the prayer, during the spiritual practices. She was observing all the other nuns weeping, crying for God's presence. They were moved, and she felt nothing. She couldn't feel Christ's presence, but she was observing around her, experiencing something different. So, what she could say at that moment: okay, the spiritual life is not for me. They have devotion, I don't have it. So I'll find a different way. I quit. What she decided instead. She thought of Jesus beside her. So she thought, you are with me, you are with me, you are with me. She tried to imagine Christ beside him in every single moment, especially during her prayers. And one day she could perceive his presence, she could feel his presence. So she moved from thinking to feeling, and then perceiving, and then at last she could see him. Anyone can see Yogananda beside you, but think of how much energy you put out in order to think of masters, to be constant in thinking masters close to you. It's a very simple thing. The only difference between Therese of Avila and other saints and ourselves is that they practiced, they practiced, they were constant in their effort. They never quit day after day. A constant daily effort. And they change from people without any devotion to become a saint. And the other story he shared, you all know this story, is the story of Brother Lawrence. The same thing. When he started his technique in practicing the presence of God, at the end of the day he said, I spent 2 minutes thinking of God. What could he summarize? I quit. I'm not as good. The same thing as Saint Therese. He do it again and again and again. So constant. To persevere is the point. We start with a practice, a little energy is requested, then we become lazy, and then we let it go. What we should learn from those saints: everything starts with a thought. Who do I think is close to me? So that's the purpose for this week, or even more, to practice, to activate this consciousness. Act to those who think me near, I'll be near to think of Yogananda. So think of Yogananda, his body, his consciousness. He is with you in every single moment, in everything we do. Second way, during the Living Discipleship month, there are many things that comes out, and that is something that Jada said, the director of Ananda Yoga, and he share this practice many different times. Talking about serving, in his experience, he discovered two different flows of energy. One is one we experience in meditation, in and up above, and the other current is a flow of energy that comes from the outside through the medulla, flows in our body and goes out. These are the two flows of energy. One, you can use it in the new meditation. The other one, Jada said, is a very, very powerful technique you can practice during your activity. So, what is our medulla? We're not used to talk about Master entering within us through the medulla. Usually we link the medulla with the site of the ego. That is true, but there is a word to discover about our medulla. So let's see what Master said about the medulla, because we can think that teachings are simple, we read everything, we understood everything, but actually along the path we always have a new understanding. So Master said, yeah, in one, sit straight, please, shoulder blades together, palms upwards, chin parallel to the floor, concentrating the point between the eyebrows. That's where Christ lives, the center of thought and will and concentration. And He lives in our heart. These are the two poles, so spiritual eye and heart, of the magnet. And intuition is the neutral point of the magnet. Intuition is in the medulla. Wow, have you ever heard about it? I thought that intuition was from the heart. So Master said different times, intuition is in the medulla. We are all human radios. You receive the thought messages of others through your heart, the center of feeling, and broadcast your own thought messages through the spiritual eye, the center of concentration and will. Your antenna, Ariel, is in the medulla, the center of intuitive superconsciousness. Again, another quote, it is through the center of superconsciousness in the medulla that God breathes His word, cosmic intelligent vibration or energy into man. So, Master is talking about the medulla, the mouth of God, and now he's telling us that is the center of the intuition, of the superconsciousness, intuitive superconsciousness. So try to practice this. It can be very helpful when you want to act and to live in superconsciousness, when you are talking with someone else, because at any time we would like to be in contact with our superconsciousness, and ask the masters, guide me, show me how to do, how can I overcome my ego, how can I expand myself. So through the medulla, feel masters coming through you, and you will have the experience that you can receive intuitions, and that energy will expand all around you. So try, second challenge of the week, experience, have the experience. And if you succeed, you can share with us and send us your feedback. It's a practice that we don't know very well. It's not so well known. It's not something we talk a lot of. So the third way here is different cards. You will see on the screen me and Arudra are in love with cards, and know that the Living Discipleship group is laughing because quite often we show different set of cards. These are cards of our masters in meditation. And now through the screen we would like to show some of them. I keep talking. So, when you meditate, close your eyes, ask Master, choose a card. That card will be the inspiration for your meditation. The idea is to attune fully yourself with the energy of the Master or Swami. And you can do with every master you want. If you have a different guru, if you have a different saint, take an image of him or her, attune with his posture, his energy, and you might receive an intuition, a word, focus on that word. And for instance, this picture is the discipline, the concentration, the absorption. Oh, that's the beauty of the Master. That's the infinite. Go beyond. Lahiri, for instance, relaxation, joy, ease. So different words can come to your mind. This of Sri Textra is great. Try to meditate as you are. Sri Textra. That's a very powerful and beautiful practice, and I would like to share my experience. Usually when we meditate, we are identified with ourselves, and that self is very limited for my fears, for my limitations, for what I can do, what I cannot do. But if I attune myself with the Master, I can identify myself with something bigger. So in my experience, also on a physical level, I can experience something different. My tensions dissolves, my breath gets wider, my mind gets focused. It's incredible. So This is the third challenge of the week, or you can choose just one or two or three. Try these tips. Swamijis gave this as a practice. He said, I even think of Master as being inside my body. His thoughts are my thoughts. He is meditating through me. Try and see if you can feel this too. You'll begin to get subtle guidance that doesn't come from outside yourself. So, with or without cards is a practice that Swamiji suggested and used and practiced. So, now it's time to end, but I would like to finish with a point that is very important to me. I was reading, I'm reading Swamiji's book, The Path, The New Path, from the beginning to the end. And I'm at the very beginning. And I am in the point of when he describes and he shared the story about his school Greek test. He doesn't understand a word of Greek, and the teacher is addressing him, saying, don't come to the test because you will not overcome that test, you will not succeed that test. But he was convinced he could make it. So he studied, he studied, he studied. But at the end he didn't study at all. And at the day of the exam, he felt he could pass the exam. So he received a super consciousness idea. He started to think, I am Greek. I am Greek. He avoided any different thought to join his mind. So, and in that moment, he could feel that he was Greek, actually. So he could pass the exam. So yes, he talked a lot about this principle. He applied this technique many different times in his life. When he went to Mexico, he did it with the Spanish language. He describes this principle. I can read. The principle I discovered is to put oneself completely in tune with whatever subject one wants to master. Anyone can do well if he will attune himself sensitively to this subject and resolutely exclude from his mind any thought of the task foreignness. I've learned that a strong positive affirmation of success is more effective when it is sensitively attuned to one's goal and protected from the thought of possible failure. The mind's power for positive accomplishment, once it learns to resist its own no-saying tendency, is almost limitless. We said we can achieve everything, and the greater thing we would like to achieve is oneness with God. So we want it, but we are filled with resistances. And we manifest those resistances with no saying tendency. I cannot, it's too much, I'm not ready, I'm not good enough, I'm a bad disciple. All those kind of thoughts can be very subtle or stronger. But usually the most subtle are also the stronger. So another challenge, check your thoughts and question yourself, are they stopping my expansions in God? Because if you keep thinking, I'm not good enough, I'm tired, I don't want, I cannot, you're gonna say what we think we will become. So we are constantly stopping ourselves. So please attune yourself with what you are and not what you feel. Never say, I will find God, but instead say, I have it, I already got it, I got it, I got it. Read his poem Samadhi every day in order to attune himself. So I would like to end with the affirmation of Swami Kriyananda about immortality. So close your eyes and repeat just a few times, trying to feel the energy and promise that we will. I am a child. Mm. I am the son of eternity. I'm ageless. I'm immortal.